Sarah saw that the son whom Hagar the Egyptian had borne to Abraham was mocking. The Hebrew word here can mean either playing or mocking, but the context and Sarah's reaction suggests that Ishmael was belittling or ridiculing Isaac. Sarah was deeply disturbed by the incident. In Genesis chapter 21, verse 10, she says to Abraham, "Get rid of that slave woman and her son, for that woman's son will never share in the inheritance with my son Isaac." This request greatly distressed Abraham because Ishmael was also his son. In Genesis chapter 21, verses 11 to 12, we see God's intervention. The matter distressed Abraham greatly because it concerned his son. But God said to him, "Do not be so distressed about the boy and your slave woman. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned." God also assured Abraham that he would care for Ishmael. In Genesis 21:13, he says, "I will make the son of the slave into a nation also, because he is your offspring." With this divine assurance, Abraham rose early the next morning and sent Hagar and Ishmael away, giving them bread and a skin of water. Hagar and Ishmael's journey through the desert was harsh. When the water ran out, Hagar placed the boy under a bush and moved away, unable to watch him die. But God heard Ishmael's cries. In Genesis 21, verses 17 to 19, the angel of God called to Hagar and said, "What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying. Lift the boy up and take him by the hand, for I will make him into a great nation." Then God opened Hagar's eyes, and she saw a well of water, saving their lives. After these events, Abraham settled in the region of Gerar, where King Abimelech ruled. In Genesis 21, verses 22 to 23, we read, "At that time, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his forces, said to Abraham, 'God is with you in everything you do. Now swear to me here before God that you will not deal falsely with me.' This request led to an important negotiation over water rights, a vital resource in the semi-arid region. In Genesis 21, verses 25-26, Abraham seized the opportunity to complain about a well that Abimelech's servants had seized by force. Abimelech claimed he knew nothing about the incident, and the two men made a covenant. Genesis 21, verses 27-30, details their agreement. So Abraham brought sheep and cattle and gave them to Abimelech, and the two men made a treaty. Abraham set apart 7 ewe lambs from the flock, and Abimelech asked Abraham, "What is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs you have set apart by themselves?" He replied, "Accept these 7 lambs from my hand as a witness that I dug this well." The place was called Beersheba, meaning well of the oath, because there the two men swore an oath. In Genesis 21:33 we read, "Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba, and there he called on the name of the Lord, the eternal God." The tamarisk, a hardy tree that can live for centuries, symbolized the permanence of their agreement and God's constant presence. This period brought peace and stability to Abraham and his family. Isaac could grow up safely, protected by the treaty with Abimelech. Settling in Beersheba marked a new chapter in the patriarch's life, though God still had a crucial test ahead for him. After years of peace in Beersheba, when Isaac had grown into a young man, Abraham faced the most difficult moment of his life. In Genesis chapter 22, verses 1-2, we read, "Sometime later God tested Abraham. He said to him, 'Abraham.' 'Here I am,' he replied. Then God said, 'Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you.'" The command came unexpectedly and with devastating content. Isaac was the child of promise, the one through whom God had vowed to establish his covenant. How could God ask for his life? Yet Abraham's response was immediate. In Genesis 22:3 we read, "Early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac. When he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about. His preparation for the journey was meticulous and deliberate. Every action, chopping the wood, saddling the donkey, gathering his servants, was a step toward what seemed impossible. They traveled for 3 days toward Mount Moriah. In Genesis 22:4 we read, "On the 3rd day Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance." The biblical text does not tell us much about Abraham's thoughts and emotions during those 3 days of journey, but we can imagine the deep anguish in his heart. However, the author of Hebrews gives us a clue in Hebrews chapter 11, verses 17 to 19. By faith Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac, considering that God was able even to raise him from the dead. When they arrived near the mountain, Abraham made a significant decision. In Genesis chapter 22, verse 5, he says to his servants, "Stay here with the donkey. The boy and I will go over there to worship, and then we will return to you." Notice the use of the plural, "we will return," an expression of faith that somehow both would return. Then came one of the most moving moments of the narrative. In Genesis chapter 22, verses 6 to 8. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac, and he himself carried the fire and the knife. As the two of them went on together, Isaac spoke to his father Abraham. "Father?" "Yes, my son," Abraham replied. "The fire and wood are here," Isaac said, "but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" Abraham answered, "God himself will provide the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." Upon reaching the designated place, Abraham began to build the altar. In Genesis chapter 22, verse 9, we read, "When they reached the place God had told him about, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood." The text does not mention any resistance from Isaac, who was strong enough to carry the wood for the sacrifice and could probably have resisted if he had wanted to. This silent submission of Isaac foreshadows the voluntary submission of Jesus Christ centuries later. At the most dramatic moment, when Abraham had raised the knife to sacrifice his son, divine intervention occurred. In Genesis chapter 22, verses 11 to 12, "But the angel of the Lord called out to him from heaven, 'Abraham, Abraham.' 'Here I am,' he replied. 'Do not lay a hand on the boy,' he said. 'Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God, because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son.'" The divine provision was immediate. In Genesis chapter 22, verse 13, Abraham looked up, and there in a thicket he saw a ram caught by its horns. He went over and took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. This ram, providentially caught, represented the principle of substitution, an innocent dying in place of another. The place received a significant name. In Genesis chapter 22, verse 14, "So Abraham called that place, 'The Lord will provide.' And to this day it is said, 'On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided.'" Mount Moriah would later become the site where Solomon built the temple in Jerusalem, and near it, centuries later, Jesus Christ would be crucified. The theological significance of this event is profound. It was the ultimate test of Abraham's faith. Was he willing to trust God, even when the commands seemed to contradict the very promise? As we see in James chapter 2, verses 21 to 22, "Was not our father Abraham considered righteous for what he did when he offered his son Isaac on the altar?" You see that his faith and his actions were working together, and his faith was made complete by what he did. The parallel with the sacrifice of Christ is remarkable. Just as Abraham was willing to offer his only son, God the Father would give his only son to die for the sins of humanity. As Jesus said in John chapter 8, verse 56, "Your father Abraham rejoiced at the thought of seeing my day. He saw it and was glad. After the test, God renewed and expanded his promises. In Genesis chapter 22, verses 16 to 18, "I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the cities of their enemies, and through your offspring, all nations on earth will be blessed, because you have obeyed me." The return home must have felt profoundly different from the journey there. Father and son had experienced something extraordinary together. Abraham's faith had been tested and strengthened, and Isaac had witnessed firsthand God's faithfulness and provision. The impact of this event on the community must have been significant. News that Abraham was willing to sacrifice his beloved son in obedience to God, and how God intervened at the last moment, surely spread quickly. This story would become a powerful testimony for future generations about the importance of faith and obedience. Life after the test was marked by deeper peace and trust. Abraham had learned in the most dramatic way possible that he could fully trust God, as Paul would later write in Romans chapter 4, verses 22 to 21. Yet he did not waver through unbelief regarding the promise of God, but was strengthened in his faith and gave glory to God, being fully persuaded that God had power to do what he had promised. The development of Abraham's character reached its peak in this test. He had grown from a man who occasionally lied about his wife out of fear into someone capable of trusting God even when everything seemed lost. His influence on others became even greater, for now he could speak with authority about trusting God in the most difficult situations. Life continued in Beersheba, but nothing would be the same. Abraham and Isaac had experienced something that would forever change their understanding of God and his faithfulness. The final years of Abraham's life were marked by significant events, beginning